Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tara. I'm with Ivy, and today our special guest is Vanessa. Welcome to the Ivy webinar today. And for those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Tara. I'm with Ivy, and we are a community and business management software for designers. And designers use Ivy to create and send proposals and tear sheets, invoice clients online, track and bill for their hours, send POs to vendors, and all that fun stuff. And every Wednesday, we host a webinar for designers to learn about the different ways they can manage their business more efficiently and more profitably. So today, I'm very excited to welcome Vanessa Helmick to the Ivy webinar stage. Vanessa owns Fiore Home, a retail home boutique store in Portland, Maine, and a residential design firm called Fiore Interiors. And she actually uses Ivy herself to run her own business.
Daily.
Daily. And as a native Californian, she spent a year working for a case goods manufacturer in LA, and she still benefits from that insight that she gained into the wholesale side of interiors, which is what she'll be sharing so generously with you today. So today, Vanessa will focus on what it means to buy wholesale, how to discover vendors, wholesale pricing structures, logistics, best practices for damages and issues, and how to mix wholesale and retail successfully. So for the next 45 minutes, Vanessa will be presenting, and she will answer all of your questions live at the end of her presentation. And for those of you who are joining in and are not yet using Ivy, I encourage you to stick around after Vanessa's presentation so my colleague Sivan can jump on and do a very brief demo of what Ivy's all about. And without further ado, I'm happy to welcome Vanessa.
Thank you, Tara. So I wanted to tell a little bit about myself and then start the slides, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'm out in Portland, Maine. We're about to go into my favorite season, which is autumn. Love it to pieces. And I'm actually a native Californian, and I had started in design before the recession hit. But during the one specific year of the recession, I took a job with a case goods manufacturer, and I was tasked with building their to the trade department. So residential designers, hospitality designers. I went to High Point as a vendor. I was there for like 10 days. And it was straight sales and business. It was very little creativity. It obviously was not the type of dream job that I wanted, but it was the most valuable experience I think I've ever had. And I really want to share with everyone what I learned and what I've continued to kind of build on. So I'm going to open up to my screen here.
Perfect.
All right. Yeah, this is the goal, teaching you how to navigate this stuff. This is me. So this is the topics that I'm going to be covering. I'm just going to go right into it. Want to talk about what is buying wholesale, because I know people have a lot of questions about that. Wholesale is very simply buying product that you intend to sell. Plain and simple. You charge sales tax, you run your business, there's bookkeeping, you become the store. Some of the key differences between wholesale and retail is items tend to be non-returnable. Usually sales are final. Some vendors will let you return items with a restocking fee. It's usually quite significant, but most of the time it is final sale. Freight is generally not included in the price. So if you're shopping retail, lots of times they'll say free shipping or free shipping on orders over this much. You won't see that in wholesale. So that is something that you'll learn how to calculate and ask the questions around that. With wholesale purchasing comes greater profit, which can be really great for your business, but it also can expand your business quite a bit in things that are not necessarily creative or design related. There's different types of business licenses, different tax structures. You have to manage vendors, lead times, and shipping companies. So wholesale is more than just being able to mark up. It's a whole other business, if that makes sense, very separate from consulting. And in essence, you become the store. It can be pretty cool. So how it kind of started, and I know this is going to be very elementary for some people, so just bear with me. I like people to know the background. Is originally everyone went to High Point, North Carolina, a couple times a year. Sorry about that. And that was where you basically went to meet vendors. It wasn't all the custom, semi-custom vendors that we have now. Sometimes it was people that were showing one-of-a-kind European antiques. I don't want to say furniture flippers, but basically the very early versions of that. And some of it was very mass produced, the kind of stuff where, you know, we have one green sofa and we can do an entire container of them and you have to buy a ton, like kind of your lower end furniture stores. There are also rug companies, fabric companies, accessories. It's really grown now to encompass so many different types of things. You'll see lighting showrooms and all different sorts of people at markets. So it's pretty cool how it's evolved. I think there's a lot less of the one-of-a-kind antiques. And this was also pre-internet days. So now you can actually go online and preview the style of a company, kind of see their look. Back then, you either had catalogs or you just went to market and it was your first time seeing the new stuff or getting to know the vendors. You really couldn't do a lot of research ahead of time. 2018, I was reading about how it used to be the majority was furniture store owners and a little bit of the trade. That's really changing. I think they say between 40 and 50% of attendees at High Point now are designers. So it's a really cool time to be a designer because we have access to just about anything. Doesn't matter if it's retail or wholesale, we can see all of it and choose from all of it, which is pretty cool. And it's kind of revolutionary, I think, for our industry. We're allowed in just about any showroom. So some of the differences, I think, between then and now is designers are also influencers. So I think that people are more open to selling to us as well, which is cool. And we've gone from having one main market back in the day at High Point to now we also have a smaller market in Atlanta, a smaller market in Dallas, a pretty good sized one in Las Vegas. So there's just a lot of options out there where you can see new product, but then also find new vendors. So to kind of build on that, how do you find your vendors? Some of us have the freedom to travel to tons of markets. Some of us, it's a bit of a journey. I am in Maine, and so if I need to get to High Point, there's no direct flights. Then there's weather, getting stuck in airports, and all sorts of fun things. So it isn't easy for me to get to market. So I don't really like to go more than once a year. When I lived in California, it's a quick trip to Las Vegas market. So not everyone can go to furniture markets. I encourage you that even if it's hard for you to go, try to go at least once or twice. It will just help build your professional knowledge and it's a really cool experience. But markets are the primary way to find vendors. Design centers are changing. It used to be that you would go into one showroom and see all different lines. Now a lot of larger manufacturers have their own showrooms, which is pretty cool. So that's another good way to find vendors. Your sales reps. If you have a sales rep who is carrying one line of furniture, they chances are might also have a rug line or a fabric line. And so if there's some that you really vibe with and work well with, I'd ask to see their other lines or ask them, who else do you know that you think would be a good fit for me? Sales reps are just such a wonderful source of information. The internet, we've all come across an amazing picture of something and thought, oh my gosh, who makes this? So that can be a good one. If you really learn how to use a Google image search, do like a reverse search. I think Pinterest is starting to offer that as well. I'm a little behind on the Pinterest. But you can find who the vendor is many times and see if they do sell to the trade. Word of mouth is wonderful. I wish that I had the Ivy community 10 years ago. I mean, it's just insane. It would have saved me so much an airfare because we do get to hear from all of us nationwide on what vendors are new, what vendors are just consistently turning out good product, who's great to work with, who is changing styles, introducing new product. And really, I think the Ivy community has completely changed how I look at sourcing. So that is something that is pretty amazing, and it's new. It's very new. So we're going to see that community continue to revolutionize our industry. Wholesale pricing. I know that there's a lot of discussion around what wholesale is, and the word wholesale basically just means not retail. So within that, there's many different levels. I'm going to focus on the two main levels, which is called stocking and non-stocking dealers. But be aware that depending on the vendor, there can be up to 5. There are some vendors that are more custom that just have one price level, like this is it. They tend to be more expensive, and that's okay. But there are some larger high volume vendors that break it down into 5 different ones, and the lowest being container, where you're buying hundreds of pieces at a time. Most of us aren't going to be going that route. I know there's some people who do design and home staging and will buy by the container to stage homes. That tends to be the lowest price point. But for the purposes of what we do as designers, day in and day out, stocking and non-stocking is really where it's at for us. So for example, on the right here, I just realized my screenshot had an Ivy Clipper logo on it, but it's just something that a photo I took on my phone at market. I took over 700 photos at market. That's pretty normal. It's really great when you go to market, take a photo of the outside of the showroom that says the name before you start taking pictures inside the showroom. It's wonderful because when you get home and realize that you walked 20 miles, you can reference your photos and see what vendors you really liked. And this was one of the photos that I took of a chandelier that I really like. And you'll notice that there's stocking dealer pricing and wholesale pricing. By wholesale, they mean non-stocking. And these really correlate with how you open your account, the size of your order. So generally opening up a stocking dealer account, it means you're opening with a bigger amount. You get more competitive pricing. Your first order, like I said, is larger, but then you also have to usually do yearly minimums. So I was talking with the vendor this morning. I heard their name through the Ivy community, called the rep, and for me to stock his product, it's a $10,000 opening order, and you need to do $20,000 in sales per year. If it's a good fit for you, you should be able to do that, no problem. Some vendors will require that for stocking dealer pricing that you have a brick and mortar store. They're not doing that to be mean or to punish you. They're doing that because they want to give you that pricing, which means they are making less money. They have a smaller margin in exchange for you doing higher volume. And if you are showing the product to people, you will sell more. I own a store, and I know that the product that I have available for people to sit on, touch, discuss, sells more. Some vendors will let you have that pricing just if you open with a big enough order. And this is crazy. Like, they never used to do this. And it can be really cool because it allows you to develop partnerships with companies. At the same time, non-stocking designer pricing isn't necessarily a bad thing. You do have to choose if it's worth it to go through all of the paperwork and liability involved for a smaller profit margin. But I still think that if you pay attention to how you run your business, there is still some nice profit to be made. It can also be nice too to be able to stretch the budget of a project a bit further. So don't discount non-stocking pricing, just understand why it exists. When you're speaking to vendors, sometimes you will be talking to a showroom manager. Sometimes you will be talking to a sales rep. Sometimes you're getting the person that's just answering the phone and is at a desk at the vendor's office or headquarters. You never really know. So I recommend don't overlook the customer service person. They can sometimes answer a lot of your questions and can be a great ally. So what I recommend when you are trying to determine if a vendor is right for you, and this is important because not all vendors will be a good fit. We all have different business models. You want to ask if they have tiered pricing. A lot of people will ask, do you sell to designers? Most people are going to sell to designers. That isn't actually going to give you the information that you need. Ask if they have tiered pricing. And tiered pricing, again, is those different price levels that usually correlate with a certain sizable opening order. You'll follow that up with what are your opening order requirements? What are your yearly volume requirements? Where do you ship from? This is key. I am in Portland, Maine. I ordered product that shipped from Los Angeles almost 4 weeks ago. It was supposed to be here last week. Got flat tires, some long story, I don't know. Either way, if that product had shipped from North Carolina to where I am, I would have had it by now. So it's really important to know where a product ships from because that will affect different aspects of your business. It's just good to know. Ask if there's a sales rep in your area. Not all companies do. Again, when I lived in a large city, plenty of sales reps. In Maine, almost all my reps are Boston based and I get them when they have time. So it's just a little different. One of my favorite rug vendors doesn't have an outside rep. I have an inside rep who's at a desk in Atlanta, and she's awesome. So just you'll want to know where your reps are because they're going to help train you at some point on the product. Definitely ask about lead times and stock levels. Some companies stock a lot. In the better economies, sometimes that stock doesn't matter. If it's a really hot brand, they're going to be doing high volume and probably there'll be a lot of back orders. So you do want to ask, do you have a percentage of product that you stock? Do you have a stocking program? And that's where some vendors will have a line with a lot of product, but they'll have a certain list or collection of items that they really keep in stock for you. And that could be great if you have someone on a tight lead time or wants to be done right away, or, it all happens. No one wants to wait anymore. But definitely ask if they do. If they don't and they are special order, you want to ask about their lead times. And a lead time is how long something takes. And you want to find out, is that from the time you receive the order? Is that from the time you confirm the order? And understand that most of those lead times don't include freight. So if someone is saying that something is 6 to 8 weeks, I'm going to tell my customer realistically 8 to 11 weeks, because I know that it's probably going to take a bit longer to get up to the boonies where I live because of freight lines. And in the summer, shipping can take quite a bit longer than in the winter because everyone's busier. Then again, in the winter, you could get a storm. So you really want to factor in all of those variables when you're looking at what you're quoting to your customers because they are going to remember what lead time you told them. So this is really ask those questions for your own sanity. Okay, so logistics. If you see this image over here, the little bubbles, this was actually my only blog post on my website for like over a year. Because we're in this interesting time right now of 2-day shipping and everyone wants things so quickly. And 12, 13 years ago, I had clients who were willing to wait 12 weeks to get something. I can't think of anyone right now that wants to wait that long. I certainly don't want to be asked about it for 12 weeks. So the more you know about logistics, and it can be a little off-putting at first because it's technical, it's broad, and what we do is specific. But the more you know about it, the better equipped you will be to handle all of the expectations. And this is absolutely true. There's fast, cheap, and great. It's hard. You can't have all of them. You just can't. So freight costs. There's different ways of doing this. Keep in mind that freight trucks and freight companies in general ship all different sorts of things. We focus on furniture and rugs primarily, or tile, building materials, but people are shipping all over the place. So what we do as designers and store owners is we ship LTL, which is less than truckload. And so because it isn't one huge truck at a time, they base everything off of weight and value. And that's what determines, in size, and that's what goes into determining the pricing. I really like to work with vendors who have contracts with these random freight companies because I don't want to be calling 8 different companies to get quotes. So I like it when a vendor says, all right, you're in Maine, your rate is 15% of whatever you order. Or if you're in California, your rate is a flat 10%. That means that the vendor has a contract with that shipping company. And the reason why it's great is usually when they ship your product, they send you a tracking number. You don't have to look it up. And it's a lot easier for claims. It's much easier when the vendor is relying on their own freight partner to file claims if there's a damage. Not all companies have this. I know many upholstery companies don't that are semi-custom, and I'll get into that in a minute. But one of the most important things to know about freight costs is there is a minimum amount of money that you have to pay for an item to go on a truck. So quite often, your dining room table will cost the same to ship, people won't hear this, as one dining chair. And that is because there's a minimum amount to get it on the truck. So usually it's about, say, between $100 and $200, but that's why it can be frustrating when you only want a couple of end tables or one chair from a vendor and the freight can be more than the product. That is just how it works. There's no way around it. Sometimes smaller items you can ship FedEx or UPS, but for the most part, your furniture items are going to ship on those big trucks. Lead times are also, again, going to vary. They're very closely related to your region, so just be aware of that, and try to ask ahead of time what the current lead times are for freight. Again, it just depends on where you live. You really want to read the fine print when you are hiring your own outside freight company. I know a lot of people like to ship white glove, and that's fine. It can cost quadruple what it costs to ship wholesale. And the reason for that is most of these commercial freight companies don't do white glove. They have to subcontract out to a local company to do it. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you need. But it is expensive, very expensive. And you really want to make sure that you're checking your product the day that it arrives at the client's house, because your customer is not going to know to do that. When you are booking an outside freight company, meaning someone that isn't contracted by your vendor, you'll know the difference, because if I'm shipping a dining table that I bought from a furniture vendor in North Carolina and they have $1,100 on my bill and then, $225 for freight, I'm paying the vendor for the freight. So the vendor is technically contracted that freight company. If it just says the price of the table and then I have to tell them who's picking it up, that means I'm hiring the outside freight company. And you really want to read the fine print. They all work very differently. Some companies, if there's a damage, will only cover the cost of a repair or a percentage of value. And these are really tiny, itty bitty things in their terms and conditions. So if you have a $2,000 sofa that gets broken, they may offer you $600 for the value. It can be unpleasant. So you do want to really look and understand who and what you're hiring. So the really discount companies aren't going to have as much coverage. And again, they're not being shady. They're not being difficult. It's your choice. If you ship a lot of product and you're fine rolling the dice because you ship so much it won't happen very often, then by all means go that route. But if you don't have a huge markup on this product, or you don't ship a lot of furniture this way, you want to be a little more cautious. In stock versus quick ship. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that our customers have is if something is in stock, they're going to get it quickly. If you place an order for an in-stock item, it can take anywhere from 3 to 7 days to process that order and get it on a truck, which can be frustrating. But it is how that works. In stock does not necessarily mean quick ship. Depends on your vendor, depends on the product. So don't assume that in stock means you'll get it in a week. Sometimes you can. If you live in a large city where they stock products, like if you're in LA, you're very lucky, and don't ever complain about the traffic, because you can get through that traffic and get to tons of vendor warehouses and pick up in-stock product for your customers and deliver it, which is awesome. Even then, you'll still have to schedule in advance. It's usually not available same day, because these large warehouses have to go locate the product, make sure that it's tagged right for you, and have that available. So know that there's still a lead time even with in-stock. Quick ship programs, if the vendor is promoting quick ship, that's great. Especially with upholstery, it means that you'll get it faster. I still this year had a quick ship program be out of stock on 3 of their different quick ship fabrics that are marked in the fabric samples that they give you as quick ship, and they had no stock. So not everyone's quick ship programs are accurate, and that can just be a reflection of really our economy and how much people are purchasing right now. It isn't always a reflection of the vendor. So just make sure that you check in with your vendors on quick ship programs and make sure that they're still valid. Receiving versus drop shipping. So when you drop shipping is when you step outside of that kind of traditional business model of you buy the furniture, it ships to your dock, you unpack it, deliver it to your customer. That's the typical commercial receiving way to do things. Drop shipping is where you're either taking it directly to your client, using a company that can deliver it either to the curb or there's all different levels of service you can offer, or delivering it direct to your client. It can also be when you're shipping it to a site that you don't normally ship to, that it isn't your typical, these are my receivers, this is the dock of my store, whatever. Generally, commercial receiving means they don't drop the lift gate. So on the back of all of these trucks, there is the lift gate where they go up and down, and they really don't like to drop that lift gate. And if they have to, sometimes they will charge you for it. It's called a lift gate charge. I have a vendor who charges me like $50 to drop the gate to get to my store because I don't have a dock at my store. Unless I get a really nice driver, then he doesn't, but usually they do. So if that gate has to be lowered, or if you're going a different route, or if you're having them FedEx or UPS or whatever, if it isn't the traditional receiving, they can ask you to sign a waiver to not hold them accountable for damages. Not all companies do, but quite a few do. So you will want to find out, if I drop ship it and go direct to a customer, am I going to have to sign a waiver? Because if you do that and your customer receives the product and, oh, hey, we just noticed when we opened a drawer, it fell out, it must have been broken in shipping, you can be responsible for the replacement piece. So just understand why receivers are important and why drop shipping can be a good thing, but you still have to manage it when it drop ships. It doesn't mean that someone else is taking care of it for you. All right, so best practices for damages and issues. This is definitely a pain point for a lot of people, and I really want to stress the fact that it happens to everybody. Whether you're buying retail or you're buying wholesale, stuff gets smashed. I mean, look at how many things, just Christmas presents, show up in pieces. It happens. So it is stressful and it can happen. How you handle it can be the difference between a successful project or having a client who just doesn't want to see you ever again. I highly recommend using a receiver. A receiver is someone that you kind of partner with, and it's important that you communicate with them because they can really make or break the wholesale side of your business. A receiver generally has a dock. They can receive product, sign for the product, and most importantly, they need to note any damages when the product is delivered. This can be difficult because drivers don't want to wait around and some of them just take off. But good receivers will look at the box. If they see that the box is damaged or there's a tear or a hole, they write it on the paperwork and they give you a copy of that paperwork so you can report it. Great receivers will open up the product, inspect it, take photos, and send them to you. Those are two different levels of service, and there'll be different price levels for that service. If I have high-end goods coming in, I want them inspected and photographed. I don't care what it costs. I build it into my markup. It's just, I don't want to deal with expensive problems. And sometimes you have to kind of grow that relationship with your receiver. Don't assume that they know that if they don't open it and inspect it within 3 to 5 days that it will cost you money. Communicate that, make sure they know that. But receivers can be wonderful for your business. I had a receiver this year just decide they were really too busy to do receiving anymore and had tons of product just sitting there unopened, no notice to me. It was really stressful, and luckily I'm using kind of the big company that everyone around here uses, and it's been great. But definitely really figure out who your receiver will be. Some people just ship stuff to a storage unit and then they're there waiting to pull stuff off the truck and it works for them. That's fine. That doesn't work for me. So figure out what works for you. If you have a store with a loading dock, great. There still needs to be a human there to receive the product. Don't skip any of these details when you are ordering wholesale because you are the store and you're liable for it. When claims do happen, when damages happen and you need to file a claim, each vendor has a different protocol. So I wouldn't call necessarily my sales rep first every time this happens. One of my vendors, they want you to file within a section on their website, and it's very specific. You put in, the PO, the item, a description, and photos. Photos are like the key to everything. Take good photos. If you need to get that lighting so the damage looks even more dramatic, go for it. Use filters, whatever. But this particular vendor, their protocol is to upload it online, and they give me an answer within 7 to 10 days. Other vendors don't want that. They want you to email a person in their claims department or go direct to the rep. So find out what is the process and the protocol for each vendor, because they're all different. And the better you are with filing claims, the better your responses will be from the vendors. Make it easy for them to either reimburse you or replace product. Just make it easy. One of my favorite things about Ivy is in our vendor section, if you look at the screenshot that I put, you can actually put this in the notes of what their protocol is. So that way, if you have a team member that is handling a claim and they're not sure where to start, just put it in the notes with the vendor information and they can go and check that out. It's really great. And I can't think of any other software where you can do that. Really focus on your solutions. What a lot of consumers don't know, probably about half the furniture that you get delivered has been touched up in a warehouse. So if you are looking at a scratch in the finish that can be touched up by a furniture repair person, don't ask the vendor to send you a new $1,100 credenza. Just don't do it. They're not going to. And if we have our vendors sending replacement product and losing money when they don't need to, they're not going to survive long. And we need them to survive and keep making great product that we can sell. So if it's something that can be touched up before you submit your claim, it's good if you say, you know, the estimated repair would be $150 or something, and they can come back with, sure, great, here's a check, here's a credit, whatever. But that's much better. And it advances your purpose as well, because the goal is to install, get the project done, finish the job. And if we're arguing with a vendor over a scratch on a piece, not so good. Now, if the integrity of the piece is compromised, so if there is a crack in the piece that is a true damage, vendors will definitely honor that and take care of that. Just make sure, again, that you're documenting it, and I would really check all of these things before your install days. Do a walk through the day before just in case, because you don't want to be submitting multiple claims. So what we don't want is for you to install everything in your client's home and then look and something was torn and no one ever noticed, and now it's in the client's house and they're dealing with that stress. So just try to really understand the vendor protocol, but develop your own protocol that works for your business for double checking all these details. I know it's sort of like, why do you spend so much time on this? Because this is one of the areas that if you're new to this part of the business, you can lose money in this area. And then as you grow this part of your business, you can really just manage this, and it can be awesome. I really enjoy seeing creatives learn this part of the business and just transform into these amazing business people. So it's exciting. Again, when it comes to risk, you do take on a bit of risk when you're buying a lot wholesale. It's really what you're most comfortable with. So when I was a little newer to the industry, I really focused on rugs, fabrics, soft goods. That's what I was more comfortable buying true wholesale. And I learned a lot, and it was easier for me because I could get my rug samples, put it into my whole design, and I could make a great margin on that rug. And then I gradually got more confident in furniture when I went to work for a case goods manufacturer and learned so much about the industry. I am very comfortable with ordering wholesale. Even with the experience that I have, there are still surprises. And so based on my volume of furniture that I sell, I keep, for me, about $10,000 in the business account that I don't touch, because if a claim is held up, sometimes I had a claim one time take like 3 months. It's very unusual. Don't be scared. But it did tie up some money for me. And so I do like to keep a cushion in there just in case. If I wasn't doing furniture wholesale, I don't think I would really need that cushion, but it's what I'm comfortable with because I have an itty bitty store. The other things that come in handy when you are buying wholesale is if you have a storefront, and there's a picture of mine right there. That cushion can also help you with liability. It's not just about damaged product, it's about what your overall overhead is. So in order to get a lot of my stocking accounts, I did open a store. And where I live, the city of Portland decided to surprise us. They really didn't give us notice, and we're in the middle of a year-long roadwork project, which has definitely impacted foot traffic and business. And those are the nice gentlemen who also, after this was done, parked the digger and the trench in front of my shop and left it there all weekend. So definitely I was dipping into some of those reserves for a little bit. This is a choice that I made because I felt confident enough in business, and it was a risk that I knew could happen. Things come up. But if you're not comfortable taking on a lot of risk and a lot of liability, find which products that you are most knowledgeable about, that you're most comfortable selling, the ones where you have the good relationships with the vendors, and incorporate those as starting out with your wholesale offerings. You don't need to go from, I just started my firm, to now we're going to buy everything wholesale if it's going to stress you out or take you away from doing design. Really spend time thinking about your goals and what you love, because when you are getting more into the business side and less into the design side, you can kind of lose a little bit of your love for what you do. So only you know what balance you need in that area. Definitely build your relationships with your sales reps, your receivers, your repairmen and installers. These people, treat them as your team, as your tribe. Christmas cards, gifts are also a good idea. And if they're stressed out, give them some room. I do want to talk about buying retail. I often buy retail, and why on earth would I do that when I have a store? For me, it's about when is it going to cost me more time, and when will the cost of the time outweigh the profit margin. So this is a project that I recently completed. I'm sorry it's not getting photographed until September 12th. But this whole project was a mix of retail and wholesale. So the photo on the left, the wallpaper was wholesale. I bought that to the trade. The two vases were not. They came from a really cute big box store. They were inexpensive. I loved them. And that console table was retail. It was $300. It looks fantastic. I don't know where I can get a live edge console table for $300, including shipping, wholesale. So I mixed and matched, and it was great because this was an entire renovation project. We gutted the house. I mean, everything, bathrooms, tile, furniture, you name it, the shiplap, we went nuts. And so it does also help stretch the budget. I charged very specific for my time, and I did make some money on wholesale, but I really mixed and matched to make the whole project happen. And it's really great when you are dealing with a lot of contractors and subcontractors to not have to sweat some of the wholesale. The photo on the right, this is a store that, it's a brand of upholstery that I sell in my store. The rug was wholesale, and this cute little tree stump came from one of my favorite neighbor stores, Home Remedies, and I like to buy from them. First of all, I like them. Sometimes we carry the same lines, sometimes we don't, it just depends. But I really don't think you can make a ton of money on end tables and nightstands and small things. That's just my personal opinion. Other people do. I also don't like to pre-order all of these things. For little accents, sometimes I like to install and then see what kind of needs to be adjusted. And this on the floor plan wasn't supposed to have an end table. I felt it looked bare. I love that navy washed stump as an end table. It looked perfect, so I could go pick that up. This particular retail store gives designers 20% off. I understand that isn't appealing to some people. For me, I think it's great. I don't have to deal with the ordering, the sourcing, the follow-up, the shipping, fine. And honestly, a $300 end table, 20% is fine. It probably wholesales for between $100 and $150. I don't want to spend 6 hours tracking this thing down. So definitely developing your retail partners can be great. And then that store also speaks very highly of me to my clients when they're in there. And it's a win-win, and we need our brick and mortars to stick around. These are my competitors, but they're also absolutely my colleagues. Sorry, I'll flip forward. Again, on that note, when something is right for the project, for me, it's right for the project. So the wallpaper that I used, again, cell phone photos, I'm sorry. The wallpaper on the right is very expensive, completely custom. I think we got like a 10% margin on it. I'm not worried about that. It was right for the space. And again, I'm not going to sweat one wall of wallpaper. Would it have been nice to have done the whole room and ordered from a brand that I get true wholesale? Yes, but this is what was right for the project, and I'm a very happy client. So for me, this was great. The little light fixture that we did there, that was actually sourced through Etsy. And on the left, that large light fixture was sourced through Etsy. I want to say it was around $1,100. There's a mass-produced version of that light that's very lovely. I saw it at market. I want to say it's over 3,000. And then there's an iconic version of that light made by a brand I don't want to say because I do feel bad people are knocking them off, but not really. And it's almost as much as a car. So here it was better for the project to buy Etsy, which would be retail. But we saved so much. We saved thousands. And I hung it over a table from my store that I did purchase wholesale. And the chairs are wholesale, but I didn't do a full markup on them because I knew that they had a certain budget for chairs and I didn't want them buying inexpensive big box chairs. I was happier to be able to sell at wholesale, cut my margin a bit, and get the project done. So again, this was a successful mix of retail and wholesale. I love wholesale. I am in this as a business. I'm here to make a living, but I am also here as a designer who is paid to design, and I will do what is right for my business and what is right for the project. So we are advocating kind of for our clients' whole project, not just one or two items. Okay. So growing your wholesale business, how to grow this, what are the steps? Again, some of you are probably listening to me thinking, oh my gosh, we know this. Do you have anything else to add? Hopefully I will. But for the rest of us, your career in design is going to evolve every few years. It just is. Your life changes, your clients change, our economy changes, and the relationships that you form in the wholesale industry will really last. I have a rep who is in California who still calls me every year on my birthday and we catch up. I've known him for like 14 years now. It's great. And if I need help with something, I can actually call and get advice. So definitely develop those relationships. Sales reps are paid to develop sales and to grow the volume of sales. So we do want to, as designers, understand that some of them aren't going to be able to give us the time that we need, the same as a large store, and it doesn't mean they don't like us or don't value our business. We just need to understand their schedule. So I can still get a meeting with any of my good sales reps, no matter how busy they are, because I'm flexible. The good ones will contact you in advance. They don't just drop in. The ones that drop in, just let them know to schedule something with you because your time is valuable. But we do want to really balance things. What I really like from sales reps and what I expect is I don't call them when I'm looking for a specific item unless it's a high-end item. What I want is for them to help me grow my foundation of knowledge. So because every vendor is different, has all these protocols, I like them to come in, train me on the product. I want to know what's selling, what isn't selling. I want to know finish options. I want to know what's coming up down the pipeline too. And I really like lines that are a little diverse in their styles. That way it isn't just one look. So you definitely, when you open with the line, you want to have the sales rep train you. If you have other friends that are in your industry that are designers, have them train all of you at once. They will love you for it because you just saved them hours in their day, and they're usually driving all day long. So lean on them for support, lean on them for education. Don't send them your mood boards and ask them to price things for you. You want to really learn the SKUs. You want to learn what they mean, that if you, sometimes with some of these products, a different grouping of numbers can mean a different fabric, a different finish. You want to learn that from the beginning. So start with a foundation and then build on that. Don't send them, a screenshot from a popular website and say, hey, how much is this? Send a SKU, an item number, whatever you need to do that's a professional request. A lot of these websites you can log in and get all this information too. So if you do have access to a website with pricing, don't bother your rep with that because you really want them to know that when you reach out to them, you need an answer and that it is something very specific, not, hey, I didn't do my due diligence and I'm not looking online for pricing. I hope that makes sense. I don't want it to sound harsh, but it is important because they do have a job to do. and we want to make sure that we are being professional as designers. I personally like to take notes when they train me. Sometimes I input those notes into like a Google Doc or into the Ivy vendor area. Sometimes I lose them. You just keep trying. When you see your reps at market, a lot of them will want you to set an appointment, and it's because they're trying to give everyone kind of the same level of service. If you are going to market to purchase, definitely set an appointment. If you are just going to see the new things, let them know that you're not there to purchase. You'll say hi when you're there to see new things and keep moving along. Again, wanting to be respectful of that time and really build the relationship. I love my reps. I think that some brands are only as strong as their sales reps, honestly. So definitely build those relationships. And then kind of the final stage of growing your wholesale business is educating your client. Things are changing so quickly in the amount of information available to clients, but there's also a lot of misinformation. They will get wrong information or just wrong impressions or hear what they want to hear on lead times, on costs, on all of these things. So when you are bringing up the topic of purchasing with clients, whatever you guys decide to do, if you're consulting and they're making all their own purchases, retail, great, put in your letter of agreement. If you're purchasing some items for them and others they're sourcing, spell out what those are and put it in your letter of agreement. You must spell this out because you are a store, and every state has different guidelines around returns and all of those things. My letter of agreement basically says that anything that I order is non-cancelable and non-returnable. Done. When I am doing an invoice for a client, I will go into the memo section, and you can do it, I believe, at the project level. So that way every single invoice will say the same thing. And it says that all sales are final. Done deal. I don't mess around with it, and it is on every single thing. You need to do this for many reasons. One, actually, I'll just give you a real life example. I was doing a bathroom renovation. This was in June. The vendor told me that the vanity was in stock. We placed the order, ordered custom shelving, mirrors, all the stuff that you need for the renovation. And I get a notice that the vanity was back ordered. Not sure how that happened, because I had checked stock, I had called, it happened, a little bitter about it, but moving along. I let the client know that it was back ordered a bit, but it shouldn't affect her project because our contractor was booked out until August anyways. Everything's fine. Then I get another email when I checked, just checking in, are we still tracking August? No, now it's back ordered a couple more months. Client was so upset, told me to cancel the whole renovation. When I told her this, I didn't just say, hey, I have bad news. I said, this is what's going on. It looks like there's a delay in getting the product here. It is probably on a boat. We can A, wait for the product and install in September-ish. B, order this instead. C, order this instead. B and C were retail. And again, I like wholesale, but if I need to get the job done and we have to buy a retail piece, fine. I don't want to let the client down. She was upset, wanted me to take everything that was custom back. That did not happen. I was protected by both my invoice and my letter of agreement, and she has since calmed down. But it can happen, and it can happen with the nicest clients because people just don't really understand how a lot of these things work unless you tell them. We are used to a lot of this information because it's what we do day in and day out. But if I'm sitting there with my bookkeeper and she's telling me something about QuickBooks, she could probably tell me 4 times. I might not remember because it's not what I do day in and day out. You apply that to anything, dentist, whatever, an industry that is not your industry. You do have to really educate. And there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of hype around furniture and stuff, and it isn't all accurate. So you really educate your clients, and then you cover yourself in your letter of agreement and the memo section. These are your terms and conditions, and it's really great because you can really choose how you're going to work. You can choose how much wholesale you want to do. You can choose how much retail you want to do. There's really nothing stopping you in developing a business model that works for you. And what's so amazing to me is that this wasn't the way that it was, at least for me, over a decade ago. I was really limited to who I could get at the design center. And I think this is a really exciting time to learn about wholesale. So that's all I have. Thank you for listening. I hope I didn't ramble too much.
Wow, Vanessa, thank you so much. You are such a wealth of knowledge, and you can really tell that this 1 year of experience that you had at Case Goods really opened your world, and really appreciate you so generously sharing your experience with us, and how it's just so applicable to our everyday lives. So thank you so much. We had some really good questions come in. We only have 10 minutes for questions, but I will address them, and let's have you answer. Sarah asked a great question. Vanessa, what kind of insurance do you need when you are buying and selling furniture or accessories?
Oh, well, I have liability for my store. You're not going to get like business insurance really to cover your products. I have liability in my shop because if someone falls and stubs their toe or hits their head on a table and sues me, I'm covered for up to $2 million. Some freight companies, you can purchase additional insurance, but you really can't insure product very much. It's difficult to do. I have friends here in Portland whose rug store flooded, and they didn't even file a claim with their insurance for goods, because you can file that claim. You'll most likely then, after they write a check, they'll cancel your insurance, and you'll have a hard time getting another policy. So insurance is really a last resort.
Great. Okay, speaking of disputes, John asked, how do you recommend handling disputes about products delivered but later missing on site?
Okay, so products are delivered to your client and then no one can find them? Or
yes.
Okay, so if it's in your warehouse, so if it's lost like at the receivers or at the warehouse, it's pretty much on the receiver. There's a bill of lading and packing slips that come with every shipment. They're in the plastic slip on the side of the box, and it says what just shipped. 9 out of 10 times that packing slip is right. If it's going to your customer's house and people can't find it, you should be there. You should be there on delivery day. Don't have multiple pieces going to your client without you there, or an assistant there, or someone that you have hired. That's just asking for problems. I mean, I've stood there myself and watched really competent movers bang a sofa into a wall. You should be present for installations always.
Great. Okay, thank you. Stephanie has asked, how do you suggest going about finding a good receiver that you can trust?
Oh, that's a hard one. So when I moved to Maine, I couldn't just look in the phone book. I heard word of mouth about one receiver, so I used them. Scary, awful nightmare. And then I started working with a new moving company. I actually taught them how to receive, and I kind of worked with them for like 6 years. So you can either work with a new company, or if you prefer to work with an existing company, ask your sales reps, where are products being delivered? They'll see the addresses, and they won't all be to stores. Some of them will be receivers. Ask the Ivy community. There's most likely someone in your area that can give you real life feedback. I mean, that's just, again, didn't have that like a decade ago. You can Google furniture receiving and delivery, and then call and ask. A lot of these delivery companies that don't say receivers, but they do say delivery and moving will deliver. A lot of your furniture repair companies will know who receives, because they go to these places to touch up before they go out to the client. And then some of your design centers will know.
Yeah, your design center is always such a good resource. Thank you. John and Marianne both asked the same question. They asked, how do you typically handle clients who shop your prices for products offered online?
So it happens. I definitely try to be competitive with my pricing, but I'm not here to spend hours and hours saving them money. So I just let them know that this is competitive pricing. If they would like me to invest, this many hours at $95 an hour to save them $50, I'm happy to do it. The math doesn't really work out. I know internet pricing is something that scares all of us, and I get that, but there's different ways to handle that. Some people charge a procurement fee. for me, if I am not purchasing a product, I am not managing it at all. I won't do it anymore. I've done it before. It's a nightmare. It's a waste of time. And I just let the clients know that it will cost them more money in hourly fees to manage ordering from somewhere random than it will to order it through me. It's just how it works. If they want to do their own ordering and they want to do their own price shopping, they are welcome to. That is fine. It will cost them a lot more money to have things showing up at all different times, disposing of the cardboard, disposing of the packaging, being home all the time. When you order through a designer, everything ships to one space and then it is installed. And it is a cleaner, smoother process, and it will not take up 40 hours of their time. So you're going to have to kind of look at each project individually. I have had clients who just want that extra $10, and that's great. I'm happy to consult with them to charge X amount to put together their design, and then they are welcome to do all of their own purchasing, because I'm not going to if that is their end goal.
Right. Okay, so a very interesting topic. So Ashley actually asked, so when you buy retail, do you add a percentage for managing the order process, because that process itself can be very time consuming? And
So-
if you if you are buying retail, are you still shipping to the receiver, or are you shipping directly to the clients?
I actually been shipping to the receivers, believe it or not. The reason why is, like, if I'm ordering from CB2 in New York and Crate and Barrel in Boston, they'll actually connect and combine my shipping. It's all the same trucks. It's pretty great, and that's why our larger retail stores, I like to call and work with one person in a store rather than just online. You get better service. They save you money. You can coordinate easier than if you're calling an 800 number. And then these folks also get credit for their store sales, so they're more likely to give you the best service. Just a little pro tip there. I like it to go to a receiver if possible. Just too many things go wrong when you have random things showing up at different times. I'm really trying to grow my projects to the point of where I am installing, not delivering. It's two different things. I'm considering charging a procurement fee in the future, like a flat rate. I know some designers do it. I think it's brilliant. I just have to figure out what that percentage would be. So we all know what we need to make per hour for our design, but not all of us know what our overhead is. So your overhead is, your total expenses per year, whether it's bookkeeping, even if you work from home, you have insurance and assistance and gas. Figure out what all of that is for a year, divide it by 12, and that's what your overhead is per month. And sometimes your hourly is paying for your overhead. So I am looking at doing a procurement fee. I haven't decided what it is. I'm hoping to do that in the next couple months, because I'm closing my store in October, which I'm really excited about, because doing both has just been no days off. So that's why I want to move to procurement. It just, again, it depends. It also depends. I absolutely will charge for every minute of my time managing purchases that I'm not making the purchases. I had a client who wanted to buy these insanely expensive dining chairs in Miami, crazy expensive. And of course, as soon as she bought them, the customer service just dropped. I have spent no less than 12 hours trying to find a company to ship those up to Maine. And I am charging for every minute of my time on this, because there's no way I'm doing this for free. So in the end, it would have been cheaper if she just bought them through me.
Great. Okay. And we have so many questions. And if you have more questions for Vanessa, I'm sure that she would love to talk to you offline. But one final question, it's actually an interesting question from Kim. She wants to know, Vanessa, how would you suggest managing the project for a client who just purchased a vacation home and they want certain things to be a priority and brought it in phases based on priorities, versus a typical project where you order everything and coordinate everything for one delivery?
Yeah, so I do a ton of vacation houses. They're kind of my bread and butter, because this is Maine, so it's a ton of second homes. And it does happen. You just let them know that when you do it that way, you do tend to double your delivery fees. Not you, but you have to pay for more than one delivery to the house. So as long as they understand that it is not as a smooth, the process isn't as smooth, that's fine. Make sure though that you really nail it down in your contract that you're getting paid to do the whole design, and you can design it to install in phases, but you want to be taken care of on the design side of it. And then if they're doing multiple stages, which is going to mean multiple deliveries, those deliveries can really add up, because every time a truck is going out to that house, it's costing money. So I would take all of their wishes, get like option A and B, present it to them and let them pick, but make sure that those options A and B are coming from you, not from them.
Great.
That makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much. We are out of time, and I see that there are so many more questions coming in. If you're an IB member, just hop into the Facebook group and ask your question. I mean, the Facebook group is really a wealth of knowledge, and don't be shy. No question is a silly question, and the entire IB community has your back and wants to help answer all of your questions. So please, please, please make sure to be active in the Facebook group. And if you're not an IB member, then the Facebook group is just the reason to join. So Vanessa, thank you so much for your time. We're looking forward to having you host another IB webinar. There's so much to learn from you. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. See you later.
Bye. And please stick around for those of you who are not yet using Ivy. I'm going to bring on my colleague, Sivan. She works with me here in the New York office, and she's going to give you a brief demo of what Ivy is all about and how you can use the Ivy software to help manage your business operations. So one moment.
Perfect. Hi there. I'm Sivan. Oh, you can't even see me on screen. I'm Sivan. I am, like Tara said, I work here in the New York office with Ivy, and I'm here to share with you today what exactly is Ivy. I know that Vanessa showed a little bit during her portion of the webinar earlier today, but I really want to show you how Ivy works, how you can take advantage of Ivy, and how Ivy can really help you streamline and centralize your business. So Ivy is a business management software that we designed specifically for interior designers. And our goal was really to help designers streamline and centralize their workflows. One thing that we learned in talking to designers across the country was that administrative work is really the thing that bogs you down day to day. So many designers have told me they spend 90% of their day on administrative work and 10% of their day on actual design. And that number is just outrageous. So Ivy basically brings together a bunch of different systems that you would normally have to use, like a system for time tracking, another for invoicing, another for creating your proposals, and one for doing your purchasing, all into one easy to use cloud-based system. So let me go ahead and take you through a little tour about what Ivy can actually do. So like I mentioned, Ivy is a business management software. It's cloud-based, meaning you can access it from any computer. You don't need to be behind a specific desktop to use it. And we also just recently launched a mobile app, which is amazing. This mobile app allows you to track your time and manage your tasks on the go. And it really is just the next step in how Ivy can really bring everything together for your business. But one thing that I want to start with is one of my favorite features, which is our Ivy Clipper tool. And it's this little leaf button in the top right-hand corner of my browser. And it allows me to collect product information directly from my vendor's website. And I can save this information into my Ivy library. And this is a huge time saver if you're talking about using different systems like Pinterest or screenshotting. Those can get into messy nightmares. So here it just allows you to see things, clip it, and add it to your library directly. So the way this works, when you're on a vendor's website, you could just activate the clipper, and now you can collect all the different components. So here I'll start with my image. I'll just click on the hand and click on the image. And I can do this for my title. I can click on the hand, click on my title, categorize my item, add my cost. And if you have a default markup that you add as a company, you could just add it right here. Otherwise, if there's a target price that you want this item to cost, you could just set your target price and Ivy will calculate the markup for you. So no math is needed. You can choose your vendor. So if you do have a vendor list in Excel or even in QuickBooks Online, you can export it from those systems into Ivy using our import template. And then you can add your description. And what's great here is you can add this directly to a project if you have a specific one in mind, But no matter what you do, once you save this item will save into your product library in Ivy. So it centralizes your workflow. We don't want you to have to be communicating between multiple systems. This just really alleviates that. So your product library in Ivy stores all of the information, all of the items that you've clipped using the Ivy clipper, whether that's fabric, plumbing, hardware, tiles. It doesn't need to be just furniture. And you can really easily filter through this looking by vendor, by description, and you can also access the website where you found the item. But I'd like to go directly into the project. So while Ivy is a business management software where you could see a bird's eye view of everything going on across your project, like your revenues, your hours billed, everything that you do will be within the project itself, because really from start to finish, you can manage your projects on Ivy. So what I want to do is start with my proposal, because my proposal is where I can really ideate and come up with ideas that I want to present to my client. So all I need to do here is click create new proposal. And you'll see that rug. Remember that rug that we just clipped from the Citizenry website? We added it directly to our project. So it's right over here in our project drafts. And all I need to do is click on it, and it's added as a line item to this proposal that we're building. And what's amazing here is you'll see the title, the description, the cost, and the markup are already set. So there's no double entry here. You could just take everything directly from the website and add it to the proposal. You have your shipping cost and your markup. If you do have a shipping cost, you can add it right over here. Some people like to collect that later. It's totally up to you. And you can also assign this directly to a room. And what's great here is you can pull items directly from your product library, and you can also add services. So if you're charging for labor, installation services, go ahead and add them here, because the goal is that we want our client to understand what the cost of any given room or any given service is going to be. So I'll just stick with these two items, and I'm going to save this. And what's amazing about the proposal is that as soon as you save this, you're doing a couple of different things. So first of all, you're creating a document that you can send to your clients by email, and it's a digital proposal, so it's very interactive. But what about those pesky little tear sheets? Ivy makes custom tear sheets for you on the spot. And this is a game changer because it has your firm's logo at the top. It has the full image, the description, the total cost. There's no markup information listed. We hide the vendor, we hide the markup. Somebody was asking earlier about shopping, clients who try to shop you. We hide all the information that could lead your client to shopping you. And you can download these as PDFs and really take off that administrative workload that comes with creating tear sheets. But like I mentioned, this is a digital proposal that we could send to our client by email. And one of the benefits of working online in today's day and age is not only do clients love it, but this can be interactive. So clients, what you can do is you can give them the ability to approve each item by line. And this is amazing because I've heard of so many designers saying, oh my God, the back and forth that I have with my client is ridiculous. Yes, this, no, this, yes, this, what about this? Here, you can send this directly to your client by email, and they can say yes or no to each item individually. So all you need to do here is send it off. You have a default email message, and you can even take online payments through Ivy. And this is a game changer. Again, you don't need to wait for a check to come into the mail. Who has time to go to the bank anymore? All you need to do is give your client the ability to pay by credit card or bank transfer. With credit card, there's a 3% processing fee, and bank transfer has a 1.2% processing fee. So some designers will just roll that into their markup and call it the cost of doing business, or you can also offset the transaction fee to your client. In this case, I'm just going to send it for approval only for this example, and you can send it off, and your client will receive in their email inbox an email from your firm, and it has your logo and your email message, and all they need to do is click view proposal. And here they're taken to their landing page, which looks neat, it looks professional. and they can access it directly from their email. And what's amazing here, when they get to this proposal, they could just click on the items, they could see these tear sheets, digital tear sheets, scroll through them, and you can also, because we gave them line item approval, they can say yes or no to each item individually. And they'll see that their balance is automatically updated. Again, I'm all about that no math life, seriously. Okay. So once they submit their approval to you, come back into Ivy, and you can then take payment. If you don't take payment online and you want to give your client the ability to pay you by check, no problem, just record a payment. It's flexible, so whatever works best for you. If you work with POs, which I recommend, you can just create a PO directly from your proposal, and we'll create a PO for each individual vendor that you have on this proposal. And the POs are made automatically. You could send it to your vendor by email, and you can also download it as a PDF. They're super professional. But I actually want to take you to one of my favorite parts of Ivy, which is the project tracker. And I'm a little bit of a nerd. I don't know why I love spreadsheets, but the project tracker is amazing because it gives you a bird's eye view of everything going on within your project. So any product, any service, and it'll tell you the status of that item. So these two look familiar, right? They were just on our proposal. As I scroll across here, the status is that they've been approved. And then I can even see my cost breakdown. This is automatically compiled for you. You don't need to work in Excel anymore. You don't need to compile this manually, which is a nightmare. And you can also see the breakdown of your different items. So you can see the proposal, the invoice, the purchase order, the status of those documents, and you can track everything. So the shipping, the delivery, the receiving information, you can track all of that here so that it's once again together in one place. And if you need to have a checklist for the install day or for your receiver warehouse, you can actually download this as an FF&E schedule, and it'll download a PDF with images. And if you need to, you can also download this as an Excel document. So you can customize it, see what you see what you want to see, and download it as an Excel. Okay. Outside of that, each project is really cool, but you have a calendar section which automatically populates with important dates, invoices due, and all of those dates from the project tracker, the receive, the install, and the delivery will show up here as well. And of course, to-do items. But that being said, a couple more things within Ivy. I don't want to overwhelm you. You get a dedicated account manager with your subscription. So you also get a one-on-one training call. If any questions do come up, you can always reach out to them by email or scheduling a call with them. And you'll see a couple of the other functionalities here. You have a client list, a vendor list, which I know Vanessa had talked about a little bit earlier, and a product library, time billing section, and of course the mobile app. So this is just an introduction as to what Ivy can do. So make sure to schedule a demo so you can get a full walkthrough. But without further ado, I would love to open the floor to questions. So Tara will go ahead and tell me a couple questions that just came in.
Great. Let's see here. So Kate has asked, what is the difference between a proposal and an invoice on Ivy, other than the ability for the client to approve or decline line items?
Great question, Kate. So exactly that. So the proposal is the ability to get approval. But the main difference between the two is that an invoice is an official document of income. It's an accounting document. That invoice is what declares to the state and to the federal government that you are collecting payment on something. So while it's always great to start with a proposal, that's one of my best practices that I recommend, you inevitably have to create an invoice at some point, because that is what all of our reporting is about, and that's how you will know how much taxes you actually owe.
Great question. And Kate actually has a follow-up question to that. So let's say you propose 3 items of a specific product on a proposal. can the client approve different quantities, or how does that approval process work exactly on a proposal?
Yeah, so great question, Kate. So in terms of quantities, it depends on how you would want to do that. So I'm going to go back into one of the proposals that we just made, or perhaps I made this a little bit earlier. But you can either set the quantity per line item, but if you're presenting a couple of different components, for example, and you want to say, okay, so we have an option for window treatments, which would take 2 panels, or we have another option which would take 4 panels. You can always add those 2 options as line items to this proposal and then group them together. So I don't want to get too into the nitty gritty here, but it is possible to create groups, and then so say this is the 2 quantity group and then this is the 4 quantity group, and give your client the ability to say yes or no to each one. And one thing that we're also working on going forward, by the end of the year, we're going to be releasing room boards, which is amazing. And that will be kind of the pre-proposal process, and that will give you also the ability to more in another way present different quantities.
Great, thank you. And Suzanne wants to understand what a PO and an invoice looks like in Ivy. So would you mind just showing everyone how you can easily convert this proposal into an invoice or a PO?
Absolutely, Suzanne. So essentially, the proposal, any document that you make on Ivy, the proposal, the invoice, or the PO can be created as a PDF instantly. So I'm going to do that right over here for the proposal. I'm just going to click download PDF, and the PDF is made for you automatically. It has your logo, it has all of the relevant billing information, the image, and it looks super neat and organized. But in order to convert this to an invoice or a PO, all you need to do is click on those same 3 buttons and click Start Invoice. And this screen will look familiar because it's the same type of edit screen that we just saw with the proposal. And here at the invoicing phase is where a lot of designers will basically finalize the cost. You know, the proposal is the estimate, it's the quote. They haven't gotten that full price from their vendor yet. As soon as they do, they'll convert it to an invoice. They'll collect the difference, they'll add the shipping cost, they'll add the tax, whatever it is that has been finalized, and then they'll save it. So again, you can send this digitally by email to your client and it'll look exactly the same as the proposal. The only difference is that you won't have the approval ability, or you can download a PDF. It'll look exactly the same as it did with the proposal. But let me show you the PO. Again, you get the idea. This is exactly how all the documents look. But when you create a PO over here, all I need to do is click Create PO. I'll have each item associated with the relevant vendor. And you can send this PO, which we're making, directly to your vendor by email, and it will send it as that PDF attachment. So I'm going to go into one over here. I can just send via email, and you'll see a little preview pop up right over here on the right side, which is that same type of format. It has the image, it has the unit cost, no markup, no nothing.
Great, thanks, Yvonne. Kim is asking if I purchase using my client's credit card, what would be the reason, if at all, for me to use a PO?
Great question, Kim. So I guess my follow-up question would be, are you charging a markup? And if so, or if not, then there is a missed opportunity to do so. Because a lot of the times we encourage designers to be the middlemen, essentially, or the middle women between the vendors and the clients. Because as a member of the trade, you have access to trade pricing. You can utilize our Discover section and connect with purchasing agents who have stock dealer accounts with a ton of trade vendors. So we want to empower you to make more money and be more profitable. And one way to do that is by utilizing your vendor accounts, utilizing those trade discounts, and selling them at a markup to your clients. And markup doesn't need to be more than retail. It could just be, you know, the difference of, like, if your client were to try to shop you, they would see a comparable cost. So basically, I would always create a PO for myself to reconcile money in, money out. But at the end of the day, if you are paying your vendor directly, you would still need to create a PO to track that money out, because otherwise, if you're creating an invoice for your client and collecting that payment on the invoice, it's going to look as if you collected $10,000 when really $9,000 of that was the furniture item itself. So you can always ask your dedicated account manager for these kinds of best practices as well.
Thank you. And speaking of money in and money out, Elaine has a great question. Does Ivy have the ability to create a profit and loss statement for different jobs and projects?
Great question, Elaine. So Ivy does have reporting functionality where you could pull reports for different transactions, time billing, taxes, liability, your project tracker report. We do have a profitability report that you could pull directly from the project tracker. So as we saw, for example, I'm just going to click over here. This is the pop-up that we saw when you generated the project tracker earlier, and we want to download it to Excel. So you can toggle over to a profitability report, and this will pull any money that you have collected on an invoice minus the PO, minus the purchase cost. So it will give you the profit, but if you are looking for more detailed, robust profit and loss reports, we have an amazing integration with QuickBooks Online, and Ivy sends all that information automatically to QuickBooks. So you can always pull those reports directly in QuickBooks Online, your bookkeeper, your accountant, whoever it is. So we do have a profit report, but more detailed reporting is available on QuickBooks Online.
Perfect, thank you. And we'll take one more question today. Okay. Suzanne has another great question. So she asked if you can generate a contract within Ivy. You cannot generate a contract within Ivy, but there is a way to add attachments to specific documents. So why don't you go ahead and show everyone how you can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Suzanne, great question. I know that contracts is something that we've talked about adding in the future. One thing that you should know about Ivy is we literally were built by designers. We're built by the feedback of designers, and our community is so important in shaping Ivy's future. And contracts is something that we've heard a lot. So if you do ever have any feedback, any product requests, it's really important to communicate that to your account manager, and they will pass it along directly to our product team. So I want to show you actually one of our, I'm going to call her a founding user. I won't name her though, but she is one of Ivy's original members, and she actually gave a presentation to a couple of other Ivy members at an event we had called Ivy Academy, where it was a full day training session, an amazing networking opportunity happening in California, in Irvine, September 13th. If you're interested, email me. But what she actually did was she had a way that you can send a contract. This is how she sent her contracts to her designers, or to her clients, excuse me. She created a service called Client Contract Proposal. Here, she had a explicit understanding: by approving this proposal, you agree to the terms of XYZ's design contracts, and it has the cost of the initial consultation. She would include that same line in her memo. And then when she sends it off to her client for their approval, because again, this is a proposal, so they are approving this contract essentially, she would include the contract itself as an attachment to this proposal, send it off. And that's how you can use contracts in Ivy. But right now we do not have contract templates. Again, if you join our community, I know you heard a little bit about this. Vanessa was talking about it, Tara was talking about it. Our community is an incredible resource. People are so willing to participate in this knowledge exchange, share their contract templates. You email Lee, our co-founder, with a contract, she will give you access to dozens more. So take advantage of the community, take advantage of the information that you can learn from them, and that's just a snippet of what Ivy has to offer.
Thank you so much, Sivan.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have left today, but if you have any more questions, I will be sending an email follow-up with the recording of this webinar. I'll send you a link to schedule a follow-up demo if you need to. Thank you again for taking the time to sit with us today, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all so much. Take care.